How should we handle Russia? Delicately, gracefully. To try smartly, right? Exactly. We should use smart power. Dumb power is really for the birds.
Hasn't worked very well.
Yeah. So I mean, the challenge with Russia is that it is a real power. It's a country that has real power. It's got certain resources. It has a history of investing in military capability, pretty decent military equipment, a whole bunch of nuclear weapons. It's the only other country in the world with that scale of nuclear weapons. We have to think about Russia in a certain way, but we also need to understand that Will earlier mentioned the chances of self-fulfilling prophecies in the world, that we can pick fights that we don't need to pick. Russia does not, it's not a peer competitor of the United States today, anywhere close to the way Soviet Union was in the Cold War. The Soviet Union had trouble doing that in the Cold War. Like, Russia has power. Like, if we want to go in their neighborhood, that's hard for us. But Russia's nowhere close to coming to our neighborhood. And we need to try to change the dynamic of the US-Russia relationship to say we can defend ourselves against Russia. We have to pay attention. We don't want to weaken ourselves against the Russian nuclear arsenal, which is very real, but we don't. It's actually very hard for us and not worth it for us to push to aggressively get in Russia's business or get in Russia's neighborhood's business.
But we've already done that. I mean, the pattern since the mid-1990s has been to have NATO creep inexorably towards the east, with the net effect of the Russians feeling that all the promises or winks and nods at the end of the Cold War about NATO expansion were just so much lip service.
Isn't the bottom line here? You have to treat Russia like a great power that has its own particular interests. We agree with them on some issues. We agree with them on Islamic terrorism. We agree with them on, say, the Iran nuclear deal. So there are places where our interests align. There are other places where they conflict. But they're going to defend their vital interests very vigorously.
Where do they conflict? Where do our interests and their interests conflict?
Their interests are more likely to conflict with their immediate neighbors, and they have conflicted with their immediate neighbors. So again, we have to bring our allies into this conversation, right? It's not a question of what are we going to do about Russia, it's what are they going to do about Russia.
Right now, the only place that our interests really conflict might be a problem we created for ourselves, which is the Russians seem very interested in helping the Chinese get militarily stronger and making money off it. Right? This is not necessarily in our interest. Aside from that, we don't really have that many interests that conflict. And there are areas around the world where we can make deals, and that's part of Russia being a great power. I mean, I wrote a little quip in my crib sheet that said basically, how should we start thinking about Russia as a prospective ally and start looking at how many problems they might be able to help us solve, and there are some.
There are things, though, that we disagree with them about. They might not be our vital interest. There might be limits to how much, like, we're not going to fight a war. We shouldn't be willing to fight a war with Russia about these, but we have created certain conflicts, friction with them over the Baltics, where we are allied with them. We don't like their system of government. It makes us uncomfortable and we don't like it. I mean, that's not something to fight a war about, but we have a conflict of interest about how they should govern themselves. We have a conflict of interest about the future of Syria. Given our current policy.
Really conflict there.
I was going to say, they're doing the Lord's work.
Yeah, it's true.
We're kind of making our own trouble, right?
Right, but there are places where there's friction, as there always will be with other real countries in the world, with other powers in the world.
This is a declining great power.
Yeah.
And the only reason we have real problems with it is because we've pursued liberal hegemony, which called for running our alliance structure right up to their border. Self-created problem, which, as you point out, Barry, causes all sorts of problems vis-a-vis China.
We've created an alliance, and we've driven these two countries together. Russia and China are not natural allies in the fullness of time, but against us presently, they have a coincidence of interest.
I agree 100%.